Hello and welcome back to the Bird's Eye View podcast. We are here on Tuesday, February 13th. Big news in Blue Jays land. Cup holders coming to your 100 level seats. I'm Zach Worden here today with Jori Negin-Shecter. And Jori, it's been a while. How you doing, man?
I am doing so much better now that I know that I can enjoy my cushy 100 level seats with a wonderful high-end luxury brand spot to place my $17 beer. I am absolutely jazzed for this big Blue Jays news in a time where nothing else is happening across Major League Baseball, although spring training around the corner. So that is something to look forward to.
Pitchers and catchers coming Thursday. Nothing better than a week where you learn about some cup holders and you learn about who's in the best shape of their life later this week. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to say congratulations on your full-time gig with Sportsnet that you announced today as an associate producer. Very exciting for you and excited to see how you do there.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much. Good to be back under the banner alongside you. Once again, we're teammates.
We are united by sport.
It's something like that.
All right. Well, as I mentioned, we have been away for a while, a couple weeks off for us. You went on vacation, I went on vacation. So we did miss Vladimir Guerrero Jr. winning the arbitration case against the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't think there's too much to get into here, but anything you take away from Vladdy getting his 19.9 million?
Well, I think the bigger thing is that where we are in the arbitration process in terms of Vlad being a couple years out now, right? He wins this case, so you've ruined your relationship, as they say an arbitration case tends to do with your players. But the other thing too is that it adds up cumulatively, right? So next year he's going to get that much more. Potentially in free agency, he's going to be able to ask for that much more. I don't know how much meat there is necessarily on the bone with this one, just because we kind of knew it was such a small gap. It's almost questionable why they decided to ultimately go to arbitration. But at the end of the day, I think if you're the Blue Jays, it comes down to dollars and cents for you. It's not an earth-shattering difference as it was. So it's not going to dramatically affect payroll by any means, especially because how close Vlad is to free agency. There's not as much room for the variance back and forth as, say, a guy like an Alek Manoah, where he was Super 2 eligible, and then, of course, his year falls apart, and then he loses out on lots of millions. In Vlad's case, I would be less concerned about that, more concerned, of course, about the relationship, which we've talked about at length. But I think that Vlad winning the arbitration case speaks a little bit to where his value might be at in terms of league wide.
Yeah, I mean, notably last year, Corbin Burns goes to arbitration, and in spring training is like, yeah, that sucked, and I didn't enjoy having to hear what the team had to say. And I mean, Vladdy was in Arizona the next day at the Suns game, trading jerseys with KD. So if he was, really too upset about it, I don't think that he showed it. But it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure he'll be asked about it, and we'll see. We'll see what he has to say. I'm sure, like, kind of going in, like it seemed pretty likely that he was going to win, just kind of based on, the Pete Alonso's, Juan Soto's, obviously kind of like those comparables for him, right? And, it's funny because like we talk about it a little bit where we're like, how does Vlad view himself versus how did the Blue Jays see him, right? And Vlad obviously sees himself in the Acuna, Soto, Tatis tier, whereas, in reality, he hasn't quite performed up to that superstar level outside of 2021. So how did the Blue Jays see him versus how does he see himself? Is that going to become a really big sticking point in potential extension talks? Probably. And
And it
obviously,
seems like it already is, I would imagine,
yeah,
given
I
that
would
there
say
hasn't
that's
been anything
probably,
done.
yeah, exactly. I was about to say, like, it seems why they don't have a deal done. So, like you said, probably not too much to really get into there, but notable that Vladdy won, and he'll be making probably like 20. I mean, he got like a $5 million raise this year, so he'd probably be making, hopefully he'll be making a lot more next year. Hopefully he'll be approaching that Juan Soto arbitration deal.
He'll be doing just fine. Just because you brought it up about the Kevin Durant thing, thoughts on Vlad Guerrero signing his autograph with a 2021 All-Star MVP?
So, okay, do you think it would be better if he signed it 2023 home run derby champ, or are you okay with the All-Star game MVP thing?
I don't know that I would be signing either of those if I was him. I feel like we're probably setting the bar a little bit low. You're Vlad Guerrero Jr. I don't know. If I was Vlad, I wouldn't want to be. I mean, I guess you're signing it like your greatest accomplishments. I don't know, man. Just I don't know how I feel about that. It's a little
Are,
bit cheesy.
is his greatest? I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, when you think about career accomplishments for him, like, is All-Star Game MVP at the top of the list?
Well, I mean, there's certainly not a lot in terms of playoff success. His most notable playoff moment is getting picked off a second. So I mean, he's not going to sign his autographs with picked off to kill the J season. So I think
2021 MVP runner-up.
yeah, that's what he should be doing, right? Lost to Shohei Otani. That's a little more admirable, I feel like.
If the best player ever, the most talented player on earth, was not playing at the same time as me, I would have won MVP.
I don't know if the KD jersey had that much room,
Yeah, yeah.
or the
What do you
Vladdy jersey.
what do you think KD did with the jersey?
Oh, that thing's probably in a pile with everybody else's jersey that he's been given. It's actually very funny because Vlad wrote this like paragraph being like, "Hey, you're the goat. Oh man, you're
Yeah,
so cool." And KD writes best wishes, Kevin Durant.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I wonder how many jersey swaps KD has done with baseball players.
Yeah, probably not many. Probably
Yeah,
not many.
yeah. So there you go. I mean, it was Vladdy's second jersey swap of the offseason. He did the one with Cole Anthony too with the Orlando Magic. So
Yes, I recall that. Yes, there's a bit of it's
yeah,
a
like
bit uneven
tier
there.
difference between Kevin Durant and Cole Anthony. But
Kevin Durant was like, "Wow, we swapped him with Cole Anthony. I gotta get on
yeah,
this."
yeah. Vladdy Vladdy said only the best NBA players for my
Exactly,
jersey wall.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
All right. Well, let's move on from that. Spring training, pitchers and catchers coming in Thursday. We've already gotten some video of players being at the facility. It sounds like most of them are there already, which obviously, would love to hear that. I think probably most major league teams have a lot of their players at their facilities already. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait for the first day, the videos that come out, the players walking in, you get like the first bullpen videos, the sound, the snap of the catcher's glove, the videos of guys like running on the field, like nothing beats it. Nothing beats that ever.
Where's your excitement level as far as because obviously we know where the Blue Jays are as far as the offseason. There was Kayla McGrath had that article the other day, and the excitement level around the Blue Jays is what it is. But I don't know about you, but I am getting the deep itch. I should probably see a doctor about it. Getting the deep itch about baseball being back. Where are you? Where are you on that
I
barometer?
mean, yeah, I kind of noticed it like a couple weeks ago where I'm like, all right, I'm ready for some game action, for
Yeah.
some actual activity on the field instead of the never-ending news cycle that's we're still waiting on with Matt Chapman, Blake Snell, Cody Bellinger. I'm this offseason has been rough. I think
It's
that's safe to
been
say. It's been
slow.
rough all the way around, slow, rough, unbearable. No, I remember, obviously when the offseason started, you're singing, "Oh, it's the most wonderful time of the year."
I was
It was not this year. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, I obviously we all love baseball, and I'm just thankful that we are days away from seeing some actual action on a field.
No, definitely. It's this is always I feel like the most exciting. There's a couple of benchmarks during the calendar. First maybe week of free agency when everything is all speculative. There's a lot of rumors flying around. Obviously, that drags. Then, of course, you get to I guess February 13th ish, and you're kind of like spring training. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. Of course, you got spring training, and then that kind of drags. An opening day, of course, a unique experience in and of itself. And then, of course, you get kind of into June and things slow down, and then the rumors start to come, rumors, and then deadline, and then the race to the sprint. So we're at kind of one of those big benchmark days. It feels
Yeah.
like we're getting right up to it. We're coming up around the corner. So that's something that I think it's a real nice feeling just as a baseball enjoyer, when you hit those benchmarks and you kind of get those. We're in the dead of winter, no one wants to be sitting there thinking about if Matt Chapman's getting 4 or 5 years, he's getting 90 or 110, I'm here for the baseball.
Yeah. Well, let's what do you I mean we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what we're looking for at spring training. So, I think that there's some main storylines that we are going to be on the lookout for. I mean, we touched on the Vlad Arb thing. I think that'll kind of be a storyline to watch to see if he says anything about it, kind of what comes out about that. I think story number one though has got to be Alek Manoah.
Yeah, Alek Manoah's spring training. Spring training, generally speaking, doesn't really matter. I would say for the vast majority of players, it's a ramp up. But for Alek Manoah, this is arguably his biggest spring training since maybe like 2021, before he really kind of popped and had a huge year. Like he's going to have to be good in spring training. And I remember last year, I don't think he had that good of a spring training. I think he was a little bit kind of up and down. And then of course he's opening day starter, and it all goes off the rails kind of from there. So uh, I would figure that Manoah is coming in with a renewed sense of what he has to do. And I'm sure he recognizes that this is an enormous time for him as far as what he's going to be doing. Right now, it seems like he's probably penciled in as that fifth starter. You figure he's in that mix, but of course you've got Tiedemann, and we'll talk about him a little bit shortly. And then of course you've got maybe some other guys down there. Maybe a guy like Bowden Francis has a big spring, outperforms Manoah, and he steals the fifth starter job. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, Trevor Richards right now seems like a leverage reliever, but there's not a 0% chance that he's put in a situation where he's playing for the fifth starter spot, even though that's a distant probability. Regardless, there's a lot of mystery, is basically what I'm getting at. And I think Alek Manoah is right at kind of the core of that mystery box.
Yeah, I think with Manoah it's interesting because you're right. Like last spring he wasn't very good, and obviously that carried over into whatever happened last year for him. And I'd say this offseason, like he's kind of checked the boxes, right? Like where he has posted the videos where he's in shape, right? Or where he's like working out and looking pretty good, throwing kind of in the gym, everything like that. Like, I mean, that's a box checks as to where you're obviously there were some whispers last year of him coming into camp a little overweight, and I think it's big to have that coming in. As far as like specifics of what you're looking for, I mean, we all know like the slider wasn't as sharp last year. The fastball wasn't really able to locate the fastball. I think coming in, like I honestly don't even really care about like the velo day one. I think seeing like the command is going to be the big thing, right? Like how is he locating his fastball? How is he playing it off his slider? That's kind of the stuff that I'm going to be looking for. Is there anything like for you other than how he looks coming in and command wise that you're going to be hoping to see from him in the beginning, his first kind of start or whatever?
Yeah, it's tough to say at the beginning, because I almost feel like at the beginning, because you come into camp and for all intents and purposes, you're basically warming up almost as a reliever, just because you haven't stretched out at all. You don't have very much in the way of length. So I think at the start, just him coming out and having a good, strong, solid start, picking up some good innings in terms of, throwing strikes and seeing his slider look more like what we've seen his slider look like, that to me is going to be really important. But the real test, I think, will be maybe after, March 16th or so, when you're in the back half there and he's going into the fourth, maybe going into the fifth inning. And if he still looks like he's a capable starting pitcher, you're not going to get a number 2 Cy Young finish from him at this rate. It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Or maybe he finished third. I'm trying to recall exactly. But the idea is that he comes in and looks like a number 3, number 4 starter, because him as your 5 starter is fine, but that's not what he is. He's not a fifth starter. He's better than that. So if you can come in and be like, look like a fourth, look like a third type of starter, then I think you're pretty happy with how his spring has gone.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like last spring we got the Yusei Kikuchi dominance. The Ricky Tiedemann looked really good in spring. Obviously, it was like only only a couple innings, but I trying to recall last spring, but I mean, I don't think Bassett was all that good. Obviously, like he's talked about ramping up, right? So, will kind of be the same thing I'm assuming from him. But I would really like to see Manoah kind of come out and put up like a performance where we do see like him get a few whiffs on the slider, right? Or at least get I don't know, like through a few clean innings. I'm sure it would be big for him mentally too, just to kind of get back onto that field in the Blue Jays uniform and have some success again. Obviously, coming into last year too, right, where everybody was kind of all up in arms about the steamer projections of him having the over 4 ERA after coming off a season where he had a 2.2, and it depends on like what kind of pitcher do you think he is. Like you said, he's better than a number 4, number 5, definitely, but how much does he get back, right? Where it's like he was in that 2022 season where he's so good, it's still a 3.3 xERA, a 3.3 FIP. Like, is that the kind of pitcher that we think he's going to be kind of in that 3.3 ERA range, or can he be kind of a guy that's in like around a 3?
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect necessarily to see him dipping below 3. I think if he comes in and returns to form, it would be nothing short of basically like a miracle. But I do think that that point you bring up about him making his slider really effective again, and as well being able to locate his fastball, those are, I think, the two things that you're really looking at from him. And especially on the slider front, if you get that, I think there's a lot to work with. Because let's say catastrophically, it is that he's just, maybe he is the 5 starter. If his slider's good enough, then you can work with that. Or in an even more catastrophic situation, and this is assuming obviously the relationship is repaired and things are all clean on that front, he's plausibly a high leverage relief arm if things go sideways this year in terms of pitching. So I don't necessarily think that with him, it's so much the results as much as you really need to see a good process from him.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. Like obviously the results are nice, but like I mean, some process. I think the results are nice for a psyche, but the process is obviously going to be kind of more indicative of maybe what we'll see from him this year.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, all I'm saying is no 15 runs against rookie ball pitchers. That's or rookie ball hitters. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah. Let's start the year with the big league club. I think for
Yeah,
him is a good step.
that would be probably the biggest thing for him. If he's in AAA to start the year, I think we're probably. I actually would say it's more likely he's traded than he starts in AAA.
You think so? I
I
mean,
think
it's
so.
interesting. I like just based on, I guess, like somebody would have to probably push him pretty hard to come out of spring with that 5 spot, I think.
The only guy I could think is if Tiedemann came in and was so electric that they literally couldn't leave him off. Because of course, there's now incentives to having guys start on your opening day roster. It's hard for a pitcher, obviously, to win a lot of those awards because the position just you don't
Yeah.
get to play every day. But if Tiedemann does push him and he looks so good, to me, I don't think because we all know how it went down with Manoah that he wouldn't report AAA last year. I can't imagine this year that his psyche would be all that different in terms of this willingness to go down. Maybe it is. Maybe he recognizes that I'm knocking on the door. It's a rookie ahead of me. I can pass him. But I do think that if he gets squeezed out of that 5 spot, I'd be very surprised if he heads down to AAA.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that.
It would be pretty bad if it did.
Hopefully he's fine and starts the year on the opening day roster. So let's move on from Manoah. I think another big storyline is going to be those rookies. Like, how does Ricky Tiedemann look? How does Addison Barger, Relvis Martinez, Alan Roden? I mean, you can group David Schneider in there too. How do these guys all look as they vie for a spot on the roster? I mean, like you can kind of group in Ernie Clement, Spencer Horwitz, right? Where there's still space on the roster for them. And, you know, I don't know where it's going to be, where the Blue Jays are going to be at with with their third base situation. Obviously, Justin Turner said they're still trying to figure that out. So maybe that's a case of they want to leave the door open for a Barger or an Orelvis. Obviously, Orelvis has been playing a lot of second base, so maybe they don't see him there already. Maybe it's kind of Barger, either Barger puts together another spring like he did last year, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to give you a shot on opening day." He's a left-handed bat, can kind of mix and match with IKF there. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how these rookies perform and if any of them can really earn a spot on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, right now you've got third base, you've got IKF slotted in there, and second base, you very tentatively have like a Davis Schneider potential platoon with Espinal, maybe. Espinal's also in the mix here. They have so many middle infielders, it kind of hurts. Um, One of those kids has to do something this spring, and they don't have to break camp with the team, but one of them has to look like a guy that's in AAA knocking on the door, because Aurelvis, maybe he's not a third baseman, but it seems like he's decent enough defensively that maybe he could fake it there. And then you've got Barger, who's maybe a third baseman, but that's also a little awkward. You need someone to push IKF out of the picture. By the way, insane thing to say given they just signed this dude. However, IKF should not be your starting third baseman, which is something we have repeated. So to me, that kind of core three of Ricky Barger, excuse me, of Barger, Schneider, Elvis needs to be really good. Ricky, Tiedemann, of course, going to be in the mix for the 5 spot, which we've talked about a little bit there with Manoah. Very interested to see how he does this spring, because I don't think he breaks camp with the team, but like if you were to handicap, if you were to say percentage wise, how likely? I would say it's more likely than like 25%. I'd say it's closer to maybe not 50-50, but there's a better than 1 in 4 chance, I think.
Yeah, I just don't think that he has the innings yet, right? Like I don't think that he's built up enough to come in and like could he be a five and dive guy? Like maybe, but you probably want him to be more than that, right? Like you probably want him to be built up enough to where he can go 7 innings on a consistent basis or 6 innings on a consistent basis. So like I would probably on him breaking camp, like I'm sure he's gonna look great and like get some people fired up about the Ricky Tiedemann future. But I like as far as percentage, as far as like opening day roster, I'd probably be on the lower end of that. Like honestly, like probably like 15%, 10%,
Really?
kind of around there. Like I mean, I there's no doubt to me. Like I think he has the talent to be a major league pitcher today. But I think as far as like what you want from him, it's better to let him extend a little bit in AAA and then force your hand to bring him up eventually when he's kind of giving you that length a little bit more.
Yeah, like that's the ideal scenario. But here's what I would ask is, can he force your hand with a good enough spring training?
Uh I would say yes, but it would also have to come with a Manoa implosion or an injury, probably. Like
Yeah.
if he looks dominant in spring training and Manoa struggles or one of the other pitchers get hurt, I would probably be like, yeah, like we'll let you like start to build up in the majors and kind of maybe you can be that five and dive guy to start and then eventually kind of work up from there if there's a spot for him. But if there's not, like if Manoa looks okay and obviously the other four guys stay healthy, then I think it's most likely that he like no matter how he does, like it would be tough for him to crack that five.
Yeah. And it's still kind of incredible that the Jays still seemingly don't have enough pitching depth. They have those guys. They have of course, the kind of 4 rotation guys. Then you've got Manoa. Then you've got Tiedemann. I've mentioned Francis. Like, who else is Mitch White?
Mitch White's there. I mean Yariel, right? Like he's in the mix
Yeah.
now. He's another guy that'll be interesting to watch this spring to see kind of I'm super okay. We talked about this like the stuff plus on his fastball. This is like where I'm like maybe a little too niche, but I'm very interested to see like with a larger sample than the World Baseball Classic where the stuff plus on his fastball comes out at. But yeah, like I mean you have him. They have Brendan Little. I guess he's kind of more of a reliever, but he's another guy who they brought in. Mako will be in camp.
Like there's
Yeah,
no shortage of arms. I don't think that
yeah.
arms are the issue. I think the issue is who's who's combining for 175 innings, because that's probably what you need out of your 5 spot. 175. Probably don't need 200. You maybe even 150. Maybe you need 150. Manoa probably gets you there, but if he doesn't, who does?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, last year it was like they brought in Drew Hutchison, Zach Thompson, right, as kind of these AAA depth guys, and you could kind of talk yourself into them as in a pinch they would be good, but they weren't very good at AAA, and they both obviously not with the team this year. So um Yeah, it'll be interesting to see like if they add anybody, kind of an extra arm or two to kind of see what they can get out of them. But I mean, just looking at like the Fangraphs projections as far as innings go, like they have Manoah for 114, Tiedemann for 31, Yariel for 37, and then Francis and Mitch White for 8 both as starters. So I
Yeah,
mean, I think Francis is probably a good guy to look at as far as he could be like I think he could be a pretty good. Obviously, he was very good last year. He could be a solid fifth starter if you need that if in that scenario, right? So if you look at it, I mean, Manoah, Tiedemann, Mitch White, Yariel, Bowden Francis as kind of your pitching depth is
yeah,
okay. You could probably use another arm in that group, I think.
yeah. It does really seem like, and I know that it's been discussed, but the Yariel situation is kind of where a lot of stuff starts and finishes, because if he's a high leverage relief arm, obviously that's really good, but they also kind of sound like they maybe want to start him, which
Yeah, well, I mean,
doesn't sound like
I
he's.
I think he wanted to start, which was like part of
But
the
I
deal.
don't see how he's gonna. And maybe we're just having another Y Rod discussion here, but like, how are you gonna start with a fastball slider combo? Like, is he not just Jordan Romano, but with dramatically worse stuff?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. Like I think he's like obviously yes, like obviously he has the stuff to be a high leverage reliever, and he probably would have gotten paid a lot more if he was like, yeah, I'm here to be an eighth inning guy and not as a starter, right? So I think that the signing was really good because he could be a really good leverage reliever if things don't work out for him as a starter. And there's probably no harm in giving him the shot, right? Like let him try it in AAA, give him spring training to see how he can stretch out and see how the stuff plays over multiple innings. But realistically, unless he does, and I mean, like this is one thing that I think Jake and I talked about a couple weeks ago, where we were looking like where you look at him and you're like, oh, he's a two pitch guy, right? Like he's a fastball slider guy. The slider's really good. The fastball we're kind of up in the air about, but he's also 26. And
Yeah,
26-year-olds can change their pitch mix, add another pitch, can get better, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if he comes into spring training and we see him whether it's like going slider sinker and then mixing in a changeup, which we've seen him throw before. He has a curveball too, so like maybe that's something where he's really been working hard. We haven't seen him pitch professionally for over a year, and so maybe it's something like he's been working really hard on a changeup or like going slider, fastball, sinker, changeup, and kind of adding to his pitch mix, right? So he'll be a very his first spring training game, like all eyes on what he's throwing because I think it'll be super interesting what pitcher he looks like after more than a year off from professional pitching.
yeah. Nobody really knows what he's gonna be, and there's a lot of variance in terms of what he could be and what he could be,
Yeah.
and those mean very different things.
I mean, yeah, like if he's like a number 3 starter next year, like if he'd crack your rotation next year as like a top 3 guy, I think that'd be pretty fun too. But
That would be incredible. That would be a unbelievable outcome.
yes. Let's move on though. A little spring training prediction in the spirit of our not now departed, but no longer a Blue Jay friend. He's raking in Australia. He's like setting the home run record over there or something like that. But in the spirit of Greg Bird, random spring star, who do you think is primed to pop this spring for the Blue Jays?
So this is a little bit of a cheating answer because he's a bit of a high. There's a lot of excitement around him, just broadly speaking. I think in terms of excitement level, and he's not really a veteran because the Jays aren't really bringing any vets into the mix. Uh, but I'll say Alan Roden. I'll say Alan Roden comes in with a big spring. He did very nicely for the Blue Jays in Double A last year, and he's their best outfield prospect as we speak, which is a bit dire. So maybe he comes in and hits the lights out, and the Blue Jays have found themselves a fourth outfielder. or
Hey,
fifth or sixth. I don't
I
know.
mean, yeah, like I mean, he's a super fun prospect, and obviously, like he's one of like 8 rookies that has a steamer projection where he would have a WRC plus over 100. So
Yeah.
I think it could be very likely where we see him go to AAA and rake, and then earn his way up, especially like being a left-handed bat, and the Jays kind of missing out on that a little bit. So would be a lot of fun to see him perform well and at least put his name even more on the map this spring. For me, I mean, I'm gonna give you 2 names because I'm like pretty excited about both these guys. But Damiano Palmegiani, of course, gotta put him in the mix.
CanCon, some CanCon.
A little can con.
We are a Canada baseball podcast.
Well, we try to be. Anyways, yeah, I think a good chance we see him kind of come out and continue the strong year that he had last year, kind of in the Davis Schneider mold, right? Like I mean, kind of the pulled fly ball guy. Um, Sneaky. We were kind of talking about like that third base situation, but kind of like a sneaky third base guy where he, all reports say that he's improved on his defense a ton. And, maybe we see him make a diving stop or two, hit a bomb, and he's gonna start the year at AAA. So super exciting there. And the other one is Will Robertson, who also kind of same path as Damiano last year, where he's at AA. He had like a slow start and then really came on in the last month. We've talked about him a little bit, but he was also really good in the Arizona Fall League. And I'm kind of excited to see where he's at this year. He's like a lefty bat with some pop, and he would be another guy that I think with a strong spring could put himself on the map a little bit further.
The annual Greg Bird. Well, we've got the birdies are for our best and worst at the beginning of the year, but we'll call these the. What are we thinking about these? The 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 I don't know.
The
I don't
the
have a
the
good
Greg
answer.
Award.
The
I don't
Greggies. We'll
know.
call these the Greggies.
I mean, I'm also so obviously like they haven't like signed any like minor league free agents yet. Like I
Well,
guess
that I was gonna
only
say.
one minor league hitter, right? So we
There's
don't have
not
like
really a
the
guy like that.
yeah. So I mean, obviously there's been some rumors that they're linked to like Tony Kemp. So maybe he's the guy who comes in and is your Greg Bird of the year, Tony Kemp. I
Yeah.
don't quite see that happening.
Your
Maybe it's
2024 annual national bi-monthly honorary Greg Bird of the Spring Training Award, brought to you by.
it's actually going to be Josh Donaldson when they sign him to a minor
Yeah,
league
yeah,
deal.
exactly.
Yeah.
He'll come in and he'll just like yell at Alec Manoa for a couple minutes, be like, "I hate you," and then just like leave.
Hopefully that doesn't happen. All right. Well, yeah, so that's kind of the things that I think we're looking for at spring training. Obviously much like I mean everybody's kind of talked about, how important the bounce backs are, and we've beat it to death by this point just how important that, Vlad, Kirk, Varsho, Springer all bouncing back is to the 2024 Blue Jays. And with the disenchanting offseason, let's call it. It's obviously going to be even more important that like 3 of those guys bounce back a little bit. I'm curious for you, who are you most concerned about bouncing back, and who do you think is most likely to bounce back?
Biggest concern, I'd say by a comfortable margin. There's 2 guys I guess I would put it in kind of red flag territory, but I'm gonna lean George Springer. I think with Springer, the age is of concern. He's not exactly a spring chicken anymore. And he was kind of quietly one of their weakest players. And he was healthy last year because obviously, to start his Blue Jays tenure, it had been nothing but injuries. And now he was finally healthy last year, played 150 plus games or so, maybe 140 plus games, and is like a league average bat with like middling defense. You don't need Springer to be your superstar. But we've talked at times about floor raisers and ceiling raisers. And George Springer, if he is George Springer, is a ceiling raiser.
Yeah.
So if he is not going to be good next year, that to me is of significant concern. He's the one guy. The other guy, maybe you'll touch on him. And if you don't, I'll mention him after. The guy that I do believe in, and this is going to be the most boring take of all time, and you have to because it's Vladdy is Vladdy. I feel like with him, obviously we all know he hit the ball really hard last year. He just didn't succeed for whatever reason. And he later talked to, I believe it was ESPN right after he was named as the cover athlete, and he talked about injuries. Everybody battles injuries. I mean, he's not one of one in terms of having to fight through some stuff, but he did hit really well to start last year, dealt with a wrist injury, came back and just was not the same. So you would figure that maybe a different approach. We've seen some changes to his batting stance. Maybe his swing will change a little bit. Maybe there's going to be a difference in approach with the new offensive coordinator stuff going on. To me, he seems like the obvious pick to bounce back and needs to be the guy to bounce back if this team has any aspirations of going anywhere in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit different. Like I agree with everything you said about Springer. Like it's a little concerning, like with the age thing. Um, if with him it might just be like where you need him to be like a 110 WRC bat who hits like 28 home runs. So if he can sell out for that a little bit, like maybe that's what you need from him. If he's not able to turn back the clock a little bit. For my like I wouldn't say that it's my biggest concern, but I am worried about Alejandro Kirk. Um,
That's who I thought you might mention.
yes. So since I mean like this is obviously last year like I agree with this point where it's like the late spring training like definitely affected him, right? But he has been a below average hitter for his last 700 plate appearances. Since July 1st, 2022, he has a 97 WRC plus, 306 WOBA, 253 average, 336 OBP, 348 slug. So that's 12 home runs, 24 doubles in 717 plate appearances, only 160 hits. So like all the projection systems are really kind of on a Kirk bounce back, right? Like they kind of Steamer has him as a 122 WRC plus, Zips only has him as a 108. Like I do think that he will bounce back, but I do have to say like seeing that like it's been almost like 2 seasons worth of a catcher's workload as a hitter of him being a below average hitter. So like I'm concerned about it. Like, and I think that there isn't really anything in the profile that shows that he was either getting unlucky or kind of having bad, like there wasn't anything in the profile that showed that he was the hitter that he was before, right? So yeah, I'm a little concerned about him and whether he can bounce back to be a 120 plus WRC bat or if he's maybe more of an around 100 guy.
Yeah, and you need him to be good because you're right now you're looking at Danny Jansen walking out the door, which we talked about him and extending him and how that never came to fruition. So if you're the Blue Jays and Kirk struggles this year, which seems extremely plausible despite obviously a lot of a lot of projection systems, as you mentioned, having some belief in him. I wonder how that affects the calculus of kind of the rest of the team. I would figure that he's a guy that is, I mean, he's not included in that conversation of the Vlads and the Bows and the Springers, but I would argue he might just be equally as important to the team. Now, defensively, obviously, that's all exceptional. So he does provide value, but he needs to be good enough with the bat that he can be a guy you trust every day as a starter, especially if Danny Jansen ultimately walks.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. I mean, I like again, he had a stronger second half last year. So maybe you look at it where he had a bad second half of 2022 after an elite first half and then really struggled out of the gate last year. Like maybe that's because of the late start to spring training and kind of found his groove at the end. So maybe he kind of continues that and does bounce back to like around that 115 WRC plus bat, which I think is possible. But I do think that having such a long sample size of him being below average, where it's like through his first like 450 plate appearances of his career, he was like a 140 WRC bat, and for the next 700, he's a 97. Um, is a little concerning for sure. So he'll be a guy that I want to watch early in the year to kind of see which hitter that he is, if he's kind of that hitter that we saw early in his career, or if he's the hitter who's struggled since making the All-Star team.
Yeah, and I'm a well noted advocate for my large adult son, as I call him. But I think, and especially because of course catchers take longer oftentimes to get the bat going.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny Jansen repeatedly over the past couple of years has come out of the gate kind of slow and turned on the Jets as the season has progressed. So I think for Kirk, there's going to be a very important couple of weeks there where he'll get the kind of benefit of the doubt. But by June 1st, if he's not hitting, I mean, who's your catcher? Because you have no catcher of the future.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, like you mentioned, like the defense is all good. So I guess you probably suck it up a little bit and hope you can find it if he struggles. But yeah, certainly a guy to watch there. And then I mean, for me on the other side of things, where it's like who I feel like is going to bounce back, like I think Vlad is the easy answer, right? Like it's where he has the quality contact stuff, like his baseball savant page makes him look like an MVP candidate more so than a one WAR player. Um, but yeah, like it's super easy. I think to kind of look at him and be like, yeah, he's most likely to bounce back just based on the quality contact that he makes. And I think wrist injuries are like one of the most damaging for hitters, right? That where you kind of lose a lot of like almost like kind of that snap, like that whip as a hitter, and I wonder how much that actually did sap him last season.
Yeah, you would figure it must have, right? Because obviously he just was so dramatically worse after. And then he obviously battled, I mean, it's been a couple months, but he battled some leg injuries. And he wasn't 100% the whole year. So I think with him, he's been an Iron Man. Like he's played a lot of games. He doesn't tend to miss a lot of time. So if he can be healthy and be on the field, it's been well noted that the sky is the limit, but it's really just a question of what is he?
Yeah, so the one guy that we didn't touch on, neither of us touched on like good or bad, Dalton Varsho. Where are you at on a potential Varsho bounce back? How confident are you?
And if I had the answers to that, I'd probably be working in the Blue Jays front office. I'll tell you that much because I could not tell you. There are some very smart baseball people that surely believe in him. So I think I just kind of have to defer to that because I don't even know what to think. A lot of his value was going to be that he was going to be playing center field for the Blue Jays. That now seems to be not happening. And then as far as the hitting goes, it kind of seems like he's a guy that isn't that good, which is kind of what he was in Arizona in terms of his exit velos, but he had a lot of success in spite of that. Man, I wish I knew what to think of him because he's such a divisive player. He's clearly very talented on the defensive side of the ball. Who knows what he's going to provide value wise for the Blue Jays next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at it and you look at like I almost think that what we'll see from him is almost more in line with like the 2021 season where he's like a 100 WRC plus guy. Um which if he's a 100 WRC plus guy, he's probably like a 3.5 win player, right? So
Yeah.
like
Well, that's all he needs to be too,
yeah,
right? If it's because of his defense. So
yeah. And I mean, like the 2022 where he, pops 27 home runs and has a 107 WRC plus, like he overperforms his ex-WOBA a little bit and posts a 10.7% barrel rate, or sorry, 10.2. And last year it was a 7.3. So like, before that he had never posted a double digit barrel rate. Obviously, like it's small samples and all that, but basically to me, like if he's going to be more than a below to league average hitter, like he's got to prove that 10.2% barrel rate is like something that he can do consistently and not something that was an outlier over the course of that season.
yeah, and that's what this year is going to be for him. It's going to be, can you hit? I guess we'll get an answer to that because I don't know if I believe it, but we've seen it in the past, so it's not implausible.
Yeah, I yeah, again, like I think it's likely that he's way like way better than an 85 WRC plus. Like I think that's pretty bad for him as to like a true talent, the true talent that he has as a hitter. But I likely I'd say around league average, if not, yeah, like probably around league average, like between a 98 and a 102 WRC plus. Like that's kind of what I assume is going to happen for him in terms of, and like, I mean, 15 points of WRC plus is like pretty significant. So getting that is probably like a 25 home run season from him.
Yeah, and that would be what you kind of need from. That's what they surely expected from him, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be, gosh, we've talked about it to death. It's gonna be about Varsho bouncing back. It's gonna be about Vlad bouncing back. It's gonna be about Bo staying healthy. It's gonna be about, there's so many question marks, and it's kind of a little scary to think about, especially this deep in the off season.
Yes, yes. And I feel like that's a lot of like doom and gloom. Like to me, I like out of the four, like obviously I think those are the four main, like even Bo, where Bo was like a nearly a 140 WRC plus guy before the injury clearly like took a lot away from him down the stretch, right? So, there's been kind of like some grouping in for him in that group, but to me it's kind of like he's just needs to be healthy. For him, like I think the big thing is going to be like kind of keeping his defensive strides that he made last year and kind of being able to stay as a good defensive shortstop instead of reverting back to the poor defensive one that he was before. um just thinking, around the diamond, like Kevin B, like as far as like improvements, like maybe Matt Chapman will resign and we'll have to add him to the group as like what can he do? Like how confident are we in him? If they did, I would actually be pretty confident in him like being a lot better over the course of a full season. But seems unlikely that he'll be back. So, those four, like I mean, if I'm gonna make you predict right now, so we'll like bounce back, whatever, however you want to define it. How many of the four post significantly better seasons in 2024 than they did last year?
Do I dare say all four? Do I dare go
Oh,
full
oh,
crazy? You know what? Because Vlad, to me, there's nowhere to go but up.
yeah,
Varsho, kind of on the other side of the spectrum, there's literally nowhere to go but up as well. Because if it's down, he's barely a major league player. Um, and then as far as Kirk, we've seen flashes from him. I mean, three of those guys I think could very plausibly bounce back. It's really just Springer that I would be concerned about. But you know what? Like, it's also George Springer.
yeah,
So I could just as easily see all four guys coming back and the Blue Jays winning 95 plus games.
yeah. And I'm on it honestly. Like I asked the question to you, and I was like, all four of those guys like was their 2023 almost their floor
I think
for
it's
all
probably
of them?
close to it.
Yeah, like they're like when you said there's nowhere to go up for Vlad, like I think that's almost the case for all of them. Like I
Yeah.
don't think Varsho could be much worse than he was. I like Springer kind of in the same boat. Like he could probably regress a little bit, but like at the same time, like I think there's a decent chance that he is like that's almost the floor for him as to where even if he repeats that season, like there's nowhere like he's not going to get worse than that. And then like same thing goes for all of them. So I think
We should say we said this about Vlad after
wow.
2022.
Yeah, you're right. Where we're after 2022. What was that,
There's
his
some very
floor?
strong foot
Yeah.
in mouth stuff going on right now.
Well, we do enjoy drinking the Kool-Aid sometimes, so
This is a Blue Jays podcast.
it is. But realistically, yeah, I think I'm kind of on the same boat as you, where I concerns aside for each of them, I do think that we do see, if not significant steps forward for all four, we do see steps or improvement for all four at least.
Yeah, that seems very plausible. I mean, I think if you're the Blue Jays, as has been well documented, that's what you're hoping for. You're hoping for bounce backs from at least a couple of your guys. And the fact that you were almost a 90 win team last year, around 90 wins, I mean, it does serve you well.
Yeah. If one of those guys is closer to peak of powers last year, you're probably 93 to 94 wins. And would they have won the wild card series? Like they only had to score like 4 runs in that entire series to move on. So um
Don't make me relive that, man. Don't make
no,
me
you're
relive
right. You're right.
that.
It's 2024. We've moved on. Speaking of 2024 and moving on, big news for us specifically. Big news for me. I love a good City Connect jersey. The Blue Jays officially announced today that they will be getting City Connect jerseys. We kind of knew that it was coming, but how hyped are we about this?
Now I should ask you that because this is your white whale. Zach, how does it feel to finally be heard by Mark Shapiro personally, and for him to address you by name in the press release that they will be making City
It,
Connect jerseys.
if somebody wants to leak, if somebody out there has the jersey designs and wants to leak them to me, my DMs are open. You can find me on any social, shoot them my way. I promise I won't leak them. I just want to see them so I can at least form an early opinion. But no, I'm so hyped. Like this might be reading into it a little bit too much, but do you read into the release graphic at all?
Being black,
Being black? Yeah.
do we get some? Do we get a little of this action? Could it
Aaron
could it
Aaron
happen?
Aaron Hill himself is
Aaron
going to be
Hill,
the model for it.
could it happen? I'm just saying. I'm just
So,
saying.
okay. Also, like let me put this out there. I'm a little like it sucks that the City Connect jersey announcement happens and then there's a ton of like pictures of the new jerseys coming out that are awful. Like
Oh
so
boy.
bad. The Cardinals one,
The
oh my
Michaelis
God.
comments were
Dude.
not good. The Blue Jays no longer have the, I don't even know if you can see it on here, but
Yeah.
they no longer have the texture on the maple leaf. And with the Mariners, it looks like a disaster. What an absolute Blue Jaysian thing to happen, that the year the City Connect comes out, all the jerseys just crumble at the seams.
It hurts. It hurts. Honestly, I when I woke up this morning, I open up Twitter and I see the Blue Jays announcement, and then I scroll and I see the Cardinals Miles Michaelis jersey and am immediately upset.
That thing looks like something you give away. Like I have, I mean, this one back here,
Yeah.
it's this Gosman splitter jersey.
Yeah.
And it's not the same material as either of the other two. I'll tell you that much.
They do look like giveaway jerseys. It's
They don't look good.
insane. It's
It's
like what happened to the sport I love.
man, disaster. Not to go too hockey, but the NHL, of course, planning to partner with Fanatics next season, I believe. Certainly not what you want to see if you are Gary Bettman and co.
If you can get your hands on like jerseys now, like it's the time, like buy them now. Um because they're not going to be great.
Uh,
I hate to say it, but
yeah.
yeah.
Give
Super
me your.
S.
I was gonna say, give me your City Connect prediction, because we floated the black, but give me a little bit more of a prediction.
I've like I've kind of been on the it just feels like it's gonna be red and it's gonna be like the replacement Canada jersey because like Nike has their new rule for MLB teams where you can only have four jerseys and a City Connect. So right now the Jays have five because they don't have a City Connect, right? So they have the new blue, the royal blue, the white, the gray, and then the red. And so the way that I like approached it, the way that I was thinking about it was that they were going to ditch the red and replace it with a red City Connect. And the fact that there was the rumor floated that the jerseys are coming out like right before Canada Day kind of does make it feel like it's bound to be a red one. But also, I mean, Nike does have some exceptions for single game jerseys. So perhaps there's a world where the Blue Jays turn their red Canada Day jerseys into a single day use and they only wear them on Canada Day and then we get a black one and that is the world that I'm going to choose to believe in for right now. So I honestly think that it could be a black one. Like the graphic today, I was kind of like, oh, okay. We'll a little Joey Bats, a little throwback action. We'll see. I'm hoping for black or at least something like a little nod to the Black Jays and however that plays out, I think that'd be super fun.
I think the issue is that that team was so reviled at the time. Of course, you and I have just intense nostalgia for it. I mean, it's right behind me, but but I think that the disdain for it makes me believe that the black is less likely. But it would be so nice if they did just throw us a bone and we got a little bit of that kind of Blue Jays. I don't know. The other thing that I'm very scared of is a big the six,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
very frightening to me. It's a very
Yeah.
frightening
Anything that
proposition.
is OVO inspired, the six inspired.
Yeah, dangerous game we're playing here. We're asking for the
Yeah.
black, and we're gonna get the Drake black and gold, and it's just gonna be awful.
I'm like it's actually a kind of a tough jersey to design. I mean, like there's a lot of aspects that you can pull from Toronto, the city, of
Yeah.
course. Um, but yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun
Yeah.
no matter what. And obviously the dream of getting a Shohei Ohtani Blue Jays City Connect jersey
Crumbles.
isn't there anymore, but the Justin Turner one will look just as good.
Be a nice addition to the collection.
The IKF City Connect jersey.
The IKF, the six, and it's black
Oh
and
my
gold.
God. No thanks. We'll pass on that one.
I'd say so. I'd say
Yeah.
so.
All right. Well, I think that covers it for us here today at the Bird's Eye View podcast. Make sure you follow us on Substack. Go subscribe there. Check out some of the writing that we're doing. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, review over there. We're at Bird's Eye View Pod on almost all social accounts, all of our various platforms at this point. And you can follow us all on Twitter. The pod is at BEV_pod. Jori is at J Negin-Shecter. I am at Worden_Zach. And Jake Brannen, who's not with us today, is at Jake Brannen_. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you later this week.